It keeps timing out.
Make sure all of those stay green while we're meeting.
Oh no, Dave yelled at us for having those.
Yeah, he told us to make them red.
Yeah, he said that Emma was talking out of turn.
So,
Okay.
all right, we're connected to the YouTube, so
Good to
we
go?
can go ahead and get started. Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us and attending the June 3rd Zoning Committee Work Session. We are in room 886, right? 886 in the Charlotte Mecklenburg Government Center. My name is Andrew Blumenthal. It is my pleasure to serve as the chairman of the Zoning Committee. This meeting is being streamed online via the Planning Department's YouTube page in accordance with all applicable meeting statutes. Requirements for notice, access, and minutes are being met by electronic means as well. A few quick orders of business before we get started. Please keep your mic muted when not speaking and state your name when making a motion or a second. The public hearings for the zoning petitions that we are hearing this evening have been held at a previous date in front of the Charlotte City Council and the Zoning Committee. As an important reminder, this meeting does not serve as a continuation of those hearings. Therefore, there will be no public input unless the committee has a specific question, in which case the committee shall suspend the session and ask the petitioner directly. We will now get started with introductions, beginning with the zoning committee members. We'll start on my left with Commissioner Stewart.
Robin Stewart, Zoning Commission.
Shauna Neely, Zoning Commission.
Aaron Shaw, Zoning Commission.
Teresa McDonald, Zoning Commission.
Clayton Seeley, Zoning Commission.
Thanks, guys.
Holly Kramer, planning.
Michael Russell, Planning.
Max Oliver, planning staff.
Kevin May, Planning Staff.
Sorry, my mic got turned off somehow. Online participants, staff, could you please introduce yourselves as well?
Isaiah Washington with CDOT.
We hear you.
Drew Ritter, CDOT.
Natalie King, CDOT, and we have a few of our folks that are still joining due to some technical issues. So we'll also have Travis Miller and Jake Carpenter, as well as Chris Mano.
Thanks, Natalie. Dave Fenton, Planning.
Thank you guys very much. I think that's everyone, at least that I can see. Holly, do we have any deferrals this evening? No deferrals. All right, we'll jump right into it then. We will get started with petition number 2025-047 by the Charlotte Planning, Design, and Development Department for the text amendment with Kevin.
Thank you, committee. Need at least one of the mics on in there. Can't hear anybody in there right now.
The mics are acting up. Is there one that we can?
No,
get-
I think it's just if somebody mutes, it mutes them all. So no one
Yeah.
can mute.
Don't, just leave them on.
Everyone leaves them on.
Be mindful that they.
Well, then ignore my instructions earlier.
They're always on.
Don't ever mute your mic. Kevin,
Yes, I'm going to yield to Dave. Dave is going to present on this item.
Yep. Yeah, so we have our first maintenance text amendment update. We can go to the next slide. So we have our first maintenance text amendment, which is 2025-047, just to kind of go over some of the highlights that we covered at the public hearing and with TPD and through some various outreach with advisory committee, UDO advisory committee, and some other groups. Two of the highlight areas we want to talk about quickly is we did address an issue that we realized we had with multiple frontages. This text amendment is going to work to alleviate some of those challenges and allow sites that have more than 2, 3, and 4 frontages to determine again where back of house operations can be located, parking, where their major frontage and entrances need to be. This was a challenge as they were kind of all treated as the same general hierarchy. So it made it very difficult for folks, both on the private side and on the staff side to really determine where those frontages need to be and where, again, those back of house operations are. So we've worked to get that cleaned up. We did introduce a new use termed research and development with light industrial. This is something, again, that we talked about in the past, trying to facilitate some of those life science campuses that we know are being a little bit more challenging for Charlotte to attract, just because we've had a lot of these uses and ability to do this type of use just to kind of spread out throughout the ordinance and not under one general umbrella. So we've cleaned that up to try to get a little bit more clarity and hopefully attract some more of those types of life science operations and campuses that we've seen throughout both Charlotte and the state of North Carolina. So hopefully that, again, cleans some of that up for us. Next slide. Another thing that we did work on, we're trying to get through some challenges, obviously, with the office market. So we did propose some conditions about adaptive reuse of existing offices. So we did allow residential in our office zoning districts. Again, this would allow an office building that's existing but vacant to be converted to office. We did also take it another little step further and allow sites that have an existing office, if they can't convert that building, if they didn't want to tear that down and redevelop the site, they could convert that to a multifamily use or residential use. We will continue to explore, how that works for us over the next few months to see if we can make some additional tweaks to it. But that's the starting point that we are at right now to, again, hopefully help out, deal with some of those vacant office buildings and office properties that we've got in the city. We also modified some landscape yard requirements and took that approach from, back to essentially a zoning district approach versus place types. This has been somewhat of the traditional approach we've had in previous ordinances and is a little bit more of a approach that's more standard in most zoning ordinances. So again, going back to zoning and use versus place type and policy for landscape yards. Next slide. We did work with some things in our applicability section as well. We did strike the language about accompanying appendices related to North Carolina Fire Code. We were dealing with some challenges with implementation of that code and some of the reviewers. So we struck that to make it clear. We did modify, again, the applicability of frontages, and we also clarified standards for green area, tree preservation, and heritage trees. Next slide. Did change some things up on some zoning district standards as well. We did allow for corrugated metal now as a building material under certain conditions. We also modified some locations for pedestrian entries for multifamily developments and clarified some back of curb requirements where it comes to installation of curbs for subdivisions and streets. Next slide. And modified some general standards for things like setbacks. So remove some different conditions for accessory structures. That's hopefully will encourage some greater utilization of ADUs to be constructed. Also clarified some off-street parking standards throughout the ordinance and made some modifications to allow pole signs up to 84 square feet and 30 feet in height in the commercial zoning district. Next slide. Did make some changes after public hearing. We updated the definition of commercial vehicles large. That's to help some of our partners in code enforcement deal with some challenges they're having with some parking issues. Added some clarifying text again to multiple frontages just to make sure that we had all the applicable sections that we needed to capture. Worked with CATS to identify some language for transit stations and off-street public paths and public park frontages. Really, we don't want them to ever become the last frontage where they don't get the same treatment that we would like to see in terms of activation and transparency and other elements. So we did add that for those types of frontages. Corrected some sections for special purpose and overlay districts, really just to grant the ability to create new overlays. As we read through that section, we didn't look like we had the ability to create new overlays, just work with the ones that were already in there. So we did correct that. So if we want to do overlays in the future, we certainly can. Updated some prescribed conditions for office conversions. We got some feedback from folks in the industry to clean up a few things that needed clarification. So we'd make sure and took care of that. And then also updated some prescribed conditions for multifamily stacked projects in both CG and CR when they're located in a center's place type. Just also want to convey, we did at the public hearing, but just want to reiterate as well that the proposed stormwater applicability changes that were in the initial draft that went to public hearing have been withdrawn. So there's no change to Article 25 in relation to stormwater requirements. And so we recommend approval of the petition. It is consistent with the goals of the comprehensive plan. And certainly we'll take any questions. Both myself and Kevin's in the room as well. So any questions you may have, we'll look forward to taking those. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Lot of changes. Any questions around the dais? Is your hand raised? No. Dave, just one quick thing on mine. You mentioned, I think you might have just misread something. It was, you talk about office buildings that are vacant and existing, and you said it can be converted to office. You mean converted to residential?
Converted to residential. Yeah. Sorry about that. Just missed it.
I just wanted to confirm that. What about new residential construction in OFC?
So that's something we do allow if there's an existing building on site. We didn't address vacant properties zoned with those zoning classifications at this point. We want to see if this gets utilized and what type of efficacy it has with these changes. Certainly we're very cognizant of those scenarios, but we also need to be aware that, if that's something that we put out there and then we have some challenges with that or consequences we didn't anticipate, it's hard to roll that back with 382 in place as it is. So I think we'll continue to kind of test where we are and then explore some other options and may see some changes in the future. But right now we're comfortable with what we've put together.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep.
Any additional feedback? All right. Well, thank you guys for adhering to the living documents. And on that note, I'll take a motion.
Shaw, motion to approve. Do we have to read a whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay, good. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2025-047 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second, Seeley.
Motion by Shaw, second by Seeley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? No. All right. That passes 6-0. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
Next is petition 2023-074 by C Investments 2 LLC. This was our deferral from last month. Max, if you could please walk us through and please be sure to highlight any changes from last month. Thank you.
For sure. Petition 2023-074 is a developed site. It's approximately 26 acres located on the east side of Province Road between Country Lane and Kuykendall Road, about a mile north of 45. The site's currently zoned N1A. Proposed zoning is N2A, neighborhood 2 conditional. 2040 policy map recommends the neighborhood 1 place type. The N2A conditional zoning portion of the property is inconsistent with the policy map, and the N1A CD zoning portion is consistent with the policy map. Approval of the petition would revise the N2A portion of the site to the N2 place type. Proposal calls for 2 non-contiguous development areas. Development area A is approximately 14 acres. Proposed zoning is N2A CD and proposes 210 multifamily attached dwelling units, up to 41 residential buildings with a maximum of 6 units per building, with no more than 15 of those 41 buildings being 6-unit buildings. Development area B is 12 acres. Proposed zoning is N1A CD, and it proposes up to 55 single-family detached dwellings. And in the interest of time, I'll only note the changes since the petition was last heard by y'all in May, but I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposal following my presentation. There have been a number of changes since the May zoning committee meeting, including the number of multifamily attached units in development area A has been reduced to 210, down from 213. The maximum height of buildings in development area A have been limited to 45 feet for those buildings fronting Country Lane and also the eastern building along Kuykendall Road. And that's in addition to the height limit along the eastern property boundary of development area A. Been additional open space areas added throughout the site, and they've set a minimum dimension and minimum square footage for each of those, as well as included enhanced standards such as additional trees, shrubs, raised beds, those sorts of things. And there's been improved on-site circulation, both pedestrian and vehicular. However, there still are a couple outstanding issues, including staff has requested a larger proportion of duplex, triplex, and quadruplex buildings on the site. Opposed to the 5 and 6 unit buildings. And the proposed solid waste service facilities should be located as far from the abutting neighborhood 1 place type and zoning as feasible. It's unlikely that the solid waste facilities will be utilized as dumpster locations and most likely have rollouts, but we want to accommodate that in the future and not be close to those single family residential dwellings. Staff now recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues, as the comprehensive plan's equitable growth framework identifies the site as being within an access to housing gap, and the proposed multifamily attached development portion would provide a missing middle housing type. Proposed development has frontage on 2 arterial streets. The comprehensive plan calls for neighborhood 2 place types to be located on arterial streets. Site meets minor map amendment criteria such as acreage, and N2 place type is a preferred adjacency to the surrounding N1 place type, as well as the campus place type across Providence Road to the west. Site's located within 3/4 miles of a designated community activity center, and the proposed site provides signalized crosswalks spanning Providence Road that will facilitate easier access to daily goods and services at that activity center. And the site is around along a transit route. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Max. Any questions, comments, concerns? Again, would like to kind of pick up where we left off last month. I believe we were waiting on some of these site plan updates and wanted to give the petitioner some more time to do that. Which frankly, it looks like they have. So, again, any feedback?
I just
Yeah,
asked
Commissioner.
one question. Mac mentioned the proposed solid waste facilities being far from abutting neighborhood 1 place type. And that's listed as an open issue. So what's the recommended resolution to that, or how do you foresee that being resolved?
We'd like to see them relocate them farther from the property line, potentially placing them in between some buildings, maybe having to adjust or shift some units or unit counts within certain buildings. The code requires a minimum of 25 feet between abutting single family property and a dumpster location, and they're meeting that, but we'd prefer it to be farther away just from a design perspective.
So is that something you're still discussing or like meeting on, or something that?
That's something that the petitioner is aware of, and we'd like to see it accommodated if at all possible.
Got it.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Anybody else? I don't have much to add either. I think most of my points from last meeting were addressed well, especially as it relates to the open space. I think that the outlining that and really kind of clarifying the square footages, making commitments and shifting some of the amenitized space back off of Providence Road, just from both a noise and a safety perspective, are great. I would encourage the petitioner to work with staff for some sort of reasonable solution around the trash and the dumpster location. However, I'm not gonna let that hold up us making a motion to move forward on this one way or the other. So on that note, happy to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Sealy. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2023-074, as well as the adoption of the associated consistency statement as they both appear before us.
Shaw, second.
Motion by Sealy, second by Shaw. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, number 3 on our agenda, 2024-124 by Aviation Metals of North Carolina, Inc. with Joe, please.
The site is approximately 7.32 acres, located on the north side of Business Center Drive, east of Melanie Road, and west of Little Rock Road, just north of I-85. Current zoning is N1A from the airport noise disclosure overlay. Proposed zoning is N01. 2040 policy map recommends the neighborhood one place type. Proposal would allow for up to 70,000 square feet of gross floor area of uses permitted in our 107 district. Would prohibit many of the noxious uses otherwise permitted in ML1. Limit the number of principal buildings to one. Allow for up to 40% of the gross floor area to be devoted to office uses. Commits to a minimum 100-foot Class A landscape yard to the rear of the site. Limits building height to 45 feet. Locates the sole driveway near the eastern property boundary, furthest away from adjacent single-family dwellings. And commits to an 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalk along the site's Business Center Drive frontage. Since the public hearing, the petitioner has clarified that the 100-foot Class A landscape yard will consist of undisturbed vegetation. And also, petitioner corrected Business Center Drive labels and dimensions and added a standard CDOT note. Staff recommends approval of the petition. It is inconsistent with policy recommendation for the neighborhood one place type. However, the site is located along interstate frontage road, adjacent to industrial use to the east and within the airport noise disclosure overlay. Petition commits to providing a minimum 100-foot undisturbed buffer to mitigate impacts the established single-family detached residential uses north of the site. Petition also prohibits many of the most noxious uses permitted in the L1 zoning district. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Joe. Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, I don't have any either. I think we need some more industrial. This is it's a more industrial zone property. This is the logical place to do it, and they're doing it in the least noxious way possible. So,
Appreciate their, undisturbed, landscape, because I know that was a big concern for the community. So.
yeah, right. I agree. I mean, no one wants to live right on 85, and this is the best way to get the appropriate use and still buffer the neighborhood. So, not seeing any other hands, happy to entertain a motion.
Neely, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-124 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
McDonald, second.
Motion by Neely, second by McDonald. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous. Thank you very much. Next is 2025-005 by EB Property Group LLC with Michael, please.
Sure. This is 2025-005. It's approximately 1.96 acres located east of Cleve Brown Road, south of Hamilton Russell Lane, and north of Hackberry Creek Trail. The current zoning is neighborhood 1B. The proposed zoning is neighborhood 1D with a cottage court overlay. The 2040 policy map recommends the neighborhood one place type. The petition is consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for the neighborhood one place type. Feel this petition is appropriate and compatible as the site is within an area designed designated by the 2040 policy map for the neighborhood one place type. The cottage court overlay district allows for a reduction in minimum lot size and reduced setbacks to permit the development of small residential communities that are structured around common open space designed in a cohesive manner that are to be shared by all residents. The development pattern prescribed by the neighborhood one place type and permitted by the cottage court overlay zoning district is consistent with the character of this area. Petition could help facilitate the goal of providing a variety of housing types within an area where single-family dwellings are the predominant housing type. So there are no outstanding issues, and staff does recommend approval of this petition.
Thank you, Michael. Any thoughts on this one? I had just one. Under the vehicle trip generation, it's not the trips per day that I have a question on. It says it's based on 7 single-family dwellings. Is that, they're not committing to a number of units within the overlay, that's correct?
Right,
Just to confirm.
it's a conventional.
It's conventional, yeah, so there's no site plan, no number of units. I'm
Right.
just curious where that 7 estimate comes from. Is that based on what reasonably could fit on a lot of the size?
Yeah, for single family.
Right, okay, understood. No, actually, I'm looking forward to see what comes of this one. I think the cottage court overlays, I know there was a little bit of opposition. I think the cottage court overlay will feel like single family, even though it is a different category within the UDO. So looking forward to seeing what comes out of this one. Happy to entertain a motion.
Stewart, motion to approve, having reviewed the petition and consider the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition. I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2025-005 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement.
Neely, second.
Motion by Stewart, second by Neely. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous. Thank you. Item number 5, rezoning petition 2025-010 by David Phillips and Emma, please.
Petition 2025-010 is approximately 1.404 acres located on the east side of Rockford Court, north of East Woodlawn Road, and south of Stacy Boulevard. The current zoning is N1B, Neighborhood 1B, and the proposed zoning is N1C, Neighborhood 1C. The 2040 policy map recommends the Neighborhood 1 place type for the site. This is a conventional petition, so there is no associated site plan. Staff does recommend approval for this petition, and this petition is consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for Neighborhood 1 place type. I will take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Emma. Appreciate the short and sweet there. Comments, questions? We're allowed to speak, guys.
These aren't the hardest.
These aren't the hard ones.
I don't either.
Let's get through the easy ones.
Happy to entertain a motion.
Shaw, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2025-010 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second.
Motion, Shaw, second, Seeley, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. 2025-012 by North Point LLC. Back to Michael, please.
Yep. This site is approximately 6.11 acres located on the east side of Statesville Road, on the south side of Twin Lakes Parkway, and north of Metromont Parkway. The current zoning is the OFC, the Office Flex Campus. The proposed zoning is manufacturing and logistics 2. The 2040 policy map recommends the manufacturing and logistics place type. This is a conventional petition as well. It is consistent with the policy map recommendation for the manufacturing and logistics place type. The petition would align the site with the surrounding area and the manufacturing and logistics place type recommendation for the area. The petition is more compatible than the existing office zoning and helps to achieve what is envisioned for the manufacturing and logistics. The site is within the access to employment gap according to the equitable growth framework. Additionally, the petition has the potential to maintain or increase the number of middle skilled jobs in the area. The ML1 district will allow some manufacturing and logistics uses that are not allowed in the OFC zoning, which is currently zoned. There are no outstanding issues, and staff recommends approval of this petition.
Thank you, Michael. Questions? Motion.
McDonald, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2025-012 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement.
Neely, second.
Motion McDonald, second Neely, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Michael. Item number 7, moving right along, 2025-014 by Pulte Homes with Max, please.
Okay, first 3 for me, so,
Ooh,
enjoy your time with me.
always do.
Petition 2025-014 is located on the west side of West Sugar Creek Road, north side of Glory Street, south of Honduras Drive. The site's approximately 6.5 acres. It's currently developed with a single-family house. Current zoning is N1B, Neighborhood 1, and the proposed zoning is N2A CD, Neighborhood 2 conditional. The 2040 policy map recommends the Neighborhood 2 place type, and the N2A district is consistent with the N2 place type. Proposal calls for the development of up to 110 multifamily attached dwellings. Buildings are limited to a maximum of 6 units, with no more than 5 6-unit buildings to be located on site. Following requirements are proposed. All residential entrances will have direct connections to public sidewalks. A 10-foot Class C landscape yard will be provided along the site's northern and western boundaries. Street trees will be provided along leaves and between buildings where feasible. An 8-foot sidewalk and 8-foot planting strips will be installed along the site's frontages with West Sugar Creek Road, Glory Street, and along the site's internal network of required streets. Right turn lane with 100 feet of storage will be provided along West Sugar Creek onto Glory Street. All units will include a garage with a driveway that's a minimum of 20 feet in length. Windows, doors, porches, stoops, other architectural features required for all buildings facing a street frontage. Front elevations now include a stone or masonry water table. Roof will provide variations such as hips, gables, dormers, parapets. Pitched roofs will have a minimum slope of 412. Been one change since public hearing. A note has been added that all units will include a garage and have a driveway with a minimum length of 20 feet. And if not, additional off-street parking will be provided. Staff recommends approval of this petition as the proposed development would fill a need for housing in an area that's been identified as lacking access to housing opportunity by the 2040 comprehensive plan. The site is consistent with the policy map. The site is within an 8-mile walk of a designated neighborhood center and is served by public transit. There are no outstanding issues. I'm happy to take any questions.
Max, thank you. Any questions? 2 quick things. Huh? No, it's fine. You guys are just quiet tonight. It's okay. 2 quick things. One, per the site plan, is the petitioner going to make the connection to Daisy Moore Lane at the back?
Yes, that'll be
completed, drivable. Okay, perfect. And then in the front, we don't have Rick here to lean into this. The 8-foot buffered bike lane, that is going to be built as well.
Yes, that is part of the streetscape improvements. CDOT may be able to elaborate if needed.
Yeah, my only question is just what constitutes buffered on a street like Sugar Creek Road, right? So if CDOT has something to just tack on there, that'd be great.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes,
Very
sir.
well.
Okay. So the streets map just dictates a buffered bike lane here, and what that just means is a 3-foot striped area that allows, some, basically what it says, a buffer between the bike lane and the lane of travels. But if it sounds like there was another question on the side of that I don't feel like I'm getting to, could you elaborate if that didn't answer?
You covered it well.
Okay.
It was just a little bit of clarity around what will be constructed and confirming that it will be built as a part of the project. So
yes, it's required per the UDO.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else? Commissioner Seeley.
So is this part of the mobility corridor, funding that we allocated like $12 million for? I know that was part of Sugar Creek.
Excuse me.
No, all the improvements here are directly from the developer.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And then last but not least, I do just want to call some attention to the design here. You will frequently hear me talk about amenitized and well thought out open space, not kicking it to the corners. I really like this central area here a lot with the tree save in the back abutting the neighborhood. I just think it's a very well thought out site plan. So wanted to draw some attention to that. Happy to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Sealy. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2025-014, as well as the adoption of the associated consistency statement as they appear before us.
Shaw, second.
Motion by Sealy, second by Shaw. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Max, I believe we're back with you for 2025-015 by Wilkes Asset Management.
Yep. So 2024-015 is located on the south side of Mount Holly Road, west of Ryan Road and east of Creston Circle. So that's approximately 8.74 acres. It's currently developed with 3 single-family homes. Current zoning is N1A, Neighborhood 1. Proposed zoning is N2A CD, Neighborhood 2. 2040 policy map recommends the Neighborhood 1 place type for this site. The N2A district is inconsistent with the N1 place type. Proposed petition revised the policy map to the N2 place type. Proposal calls for the development of 90 multifamily attached dwellings. Buildings are limited to 5, a maximum of 5 units per building, with a minimum of 6 buildings on site being triplexes. The following transportation and site design requirements are proposed. There will be a 12-foot multi-use path, an 8-foot planting strip along the site's frontage of Mount Holly Road, an 8-foot sidewalk, 8-foot planting strip along the internal network of streets. Petitioner will construct an ADA compliant bus waiting area along Mount Holly Road. Northbound left turn lane of the site will be constructed, and a southbound right turn lane will be constructed along Mount Holly Road into the site. 10-foot landscape yard planted to Class B standards will be provided along the site's southeastern boundary, abutting the M&L zone parcel there to the southeast. Open space will be amenitized, providing 18 trees per acre and additional enhanced landscaping, and all buildings will be within 1,000-foot radius of an open space. Direct pedestrian connections will be provided to public streets and network provided private streets. Street trees will be provided along private alleys in between buildings where feasible. Minimum 10-foot off-street visitor parking spaces will be provided. All dwellings will have garages. Residential units facing or fronting on Mount Holly Road will have rear-loaded garages. Windows, doors, porches, stoops, and other architectural features required for buildings fronting on public streets. Porches will have a minimum dimension of 6 feet and stoops a minimum of 3 feet. Front elevations will include a stone or masonry water table. Roofs will include variation and have a pitch minimum of 412 if provided. Changes since the public hearing. The number of units have been reduced from 100 to 90. Southbound right turn lane has been added. The maximum number of units per building has been reduced to 5 from 6 units, and a minimum 6 buildings on site will be triplexes. The amount of open space was increased and extended through the center of the site to provide access for more residents. Staff recommends approval of this petition, as the proposed development will fill a need for housing in an area that's been identified as lacking housing opportunity by the 2040 comprehensive plan. Sites abutting a commercial development in the southeast. Site is within 1/3 of a mile of a designated community activity center place type containing retail and restaurant uses. It is within 3/4 of a mile of a commercial development containing daily needs such as grocery, retail, restaurant, personal services, and it is served by transit. There are no outstanding issues.
Thank you, Max. Questions, comments?
I can say something.
That'd be great. Commissioner McDonald.
You have to forgive my voice. There was a lot of opposition at the meeting, and it really boils down to the condition of Mount Holly, of the road number 27, or Highway 27. um, which is not a problem that can be solved by this petitioner. So on balance, I think it's a decent site plan, and a decent location for this kind of density. And hopefully there are improvements coming to that road in the form of, traffic calming, because as narrow as the road is with barely any shoulder, if I'm not mistaken, speeding is still a problem on the road. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this one. I'm willing to support it. I think
Thank you,
it's good
Commissioner
enough.
Donovan. It was in a conversation that I had today, brought to my attention that there were some transportation improvements related to the site that were requested by the community. Some of which are now implemented and some of which were not accepted because they don't fit regulation from NCDOT. Max, can you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, so, if I'm remembering correctly from the public hearing, the residents wanted to prohibit left turns onto Highway 27. And NCDOT was not in favor of that solution. The plan at the time was to provide a left turn lane into the site along Mount Holly Road, and that is still the plan. But they have added a right decel lane, which was not there before. And if I'm remembering correctly, at least one of the residents did suggest having a deceleration lane added into the site.
Okay. That makes sense. And I also think that, the increased 12-foot multi-use path with the 8-foot planting strip instead of what we frequently see with the 8-foot multi-use path hopefully helps pedestrians feel safe along that road frontage as well. I think that's all I have. Commissioner McDonald, I appreciate you bringing up the opposition. We don't want to pretend that it doesn't exist. However, I do also agree that this is a well thought out petition and that some of those issues are frankly just out of this petitioner's hands, right? And something that hopefully will be addressed. So barring any additional comment, happy to entertain a motion.
Shaw, motion to approve, having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition. I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2025-015 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Stewart, second.
Motion by Shaw, second by Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And the third for Max, 2025-016 by Kingdom Development Partners LLC, please.
Sure. Petition 2025-016, located on the side of Paw Creek Road, west of Toddville Road and east of Breslin Street. It's approximately 11.16 acres. It's currently developed with one single family house. The current zoning is N1A. The proposed zoning is N2A CD, neighborhood 2 conditional. Policy map recommends the neighborhood 1 place type. N2 district is inconsistent with this place type, and approval would revise the policy map to the N2 place type. The proposal calls for the development of up to 88 multifamily attached and 1 single family detached dwelling. Buildings are limited to a maximum of 4 units. Quadruplex buildings will comprise fewer than 50% of the buildings on site. The following transportation improvements are proposed. The site is proposed to be accessed from a public street extension of Urbana Drive coming from the east and a new public street access from Paw Creek Road. Direct pedestrian connections will be provided from residential units. There'll be a minimum 20-foot setback and 10-foot Class C landscape yard provided along all property boundaries abutting the neighborhood 1 place type. Open space will be amenitized and have a minimum dimension of 50 feet. And each residential unit will be within 1,000-foot radius of open space, and they'll implement enhanced landscaping and hardscaping, such as especially pavement materials, shading elements like structures and additional trees, and additional seating options. Street trees will be provided along private alleys. Minimum 25-foot wide access easement will be conveyed for a greenway to Mecklenburg County Park and Rec along the southern boundary of the site along Paw Creek. Paw Creek, the creek, not Paw Creek, the road. Following architectural requirements for proposed multifamily attached buildings adjacent to the neighborhood 1 place type will not exceed 3 stories in height. Porches and stoops will be provided. Porches will have a minimum dimension of 6 feet, stoops 3 feet. Vinyl is prohibited as the primary building material, and buildings will present their front facade to public streets. There have been several changes since the public hearing. The north-south private drive connecting to Paw Creek has been amended to a public street with a modified local residential wide cross-section. Minimum 100-foot storm buffer along Paw Creek and a minimum 25-foot wide access easement will be conveyed to for a greenway to Mecklenburg County Park and Rec. 4-unit buildings will make up fewer than 50% of buildings on site, and buildings adjacent in 1 place type will not exceed 3 stories in height. Staff does not recommend approval of this petition in its current form, as the site is designated a neighborhood 1 place type by the 2040 policy map. 2040 comprehensive plan states that single-family detached homes on individual lots are the primary use for the neighborhood 1 place type. When multifamily buildings are proposed, they should be on individual lots sited along 4+ lane arterial streets near high-frequency transit lines and within walking distance of center place types. Paw Creek Road and Urbana Drive lack sidewalks. The site is not accessible by transit and is not near any activity centers designated by the 2040 policy map. Happy to take any questions. And there's a couple outstanding issues remaining.
Thank you, Max. Commissioner Shaw.
So Max, I don't know if you're able to, but if you could you elaborate on your non-recommendation, like in terms of, is there a world in which you would recommend if the plan were tweaked, or are you just overall opposed to the zoning, the specific zoning type change?
We're not recommending denial of some, it's not completely ruled out that they could make changes to it to kind of, accommodate some of the concerns we have. But what it boils down to, it doesn't have a lot of things we look towards when we're talking about changing from an N1 place type to an N2 place type. It's not near any center designations. It's not near any sort of retail or daily goods. The streets lack sidewalks. There's no transit in the area. It's just a tough location to talk about moving from an N1 to an N2 place type. When you can, they do have the ability to extend public streets, which they're doing, and subdividing it to be able to build under the N1 district. So just the increased intensity, we don't feel is warranted in this location.
So are you opposed to the, if you had to list your top concern, putting aside N1 to N2, but within the actual site plan, since it's conditional, is the number of units your number one concern just in that location, or is there a bigger?
No, it's not necessarily the number of units. It's more that it doesn't have the urban amenities that we can point to jump from that N1 to N2. I know you said put that aside, but
right.
That's
but
really what it comes down to. The form that they're going for is similar to what you can achieve in the N1, but without those urban amenities, and it's essentially a suburban development, and we feel that it should remain N1.
Got it. Thank you.
To piggyback on that, go ahead. Go ahead, Clay. I was going.
What would be the mix difference between, let's say we're trying to build this in an N1 versus an N2? What would be the differential between units?
So they have, limited the number of units to 4, and limited the number of quadruplexes, but the closest for the most intense N1 district would be N1F, which does allow for multi-dwelling developments, but they have to be, there are no more than 2 buildings on 1 lot. So the site would have to be subdivided into individual lots, and then it could accommodate duplex, triplex, potentially quadruplex on each of those lots. So the form factor is a bit different. There are, if you look at the site plan, there are, some alleyways that kind of, extend the ability to put units on the site without having to put in public streets.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. I mean, one thing that I do like about this is that connection from Urbana straight to the site onto Paul Creek. It adds some semblance of a grid, obviously that doesn't exist there. And it's really not that far from a bus line, on 27. But, I mean, like personally, I'm never against going from N1 to N2. So, but that's just a point of, aesthetics, so.
Yeah, just being consistent with the way we, attempt to be consistent with the way we've treated in 1 to 2 changes. There's just not that many things we can point to, just to reiterate, it's lacking those urban amenities. You can make it up Toddville to public transit along Tuckasegee, but there's no sidewalks in Urbana. There will be on their site, but there's still a gap, and there's nothing on Paw Creek.
Thank you. Anybody else?
It's McDonald. Can you show a broader location? I'm just having trouble picking this up or navigating the iPad.
Go out to like the overview. Essentially so here, Little Rock Road is to the west. So if you see that white roof building, that's charter school along Little Rock Road. And then the north-south road is Toddville. If you go just the north out of frame, that's Tuckasegee. The airport's kind of southwest of here. If you follow Little Rock Road down, that leads to the entrance to the airport.
So the dilemma that I see is that I hear all the time that we need rooftops for amenities, for commercial, for stuff like that. And here we're like, well, we can't have the rooftops because there are no amenities. And that's my main comment. I don't really have any opposition to this. I'm trying to understand how many units would go here or can go here by right, and how much more intense this is. But I don't really see a good reason to deny it, in my opinion.
So in an N1 scenario, because this is not a primary road, I would think all of these buildings would be needed to break into triplexes essentially. And then, so we're talking about a difference of maybe spatially in my mind, 8 units.
It's difficult to say exactly, how it can be subdivided. On the southern portion of the property, there's a lot of floodplain, which to their credit is being conveyed to Mecklenburg County for an extension of the Paw Creek Greenway. But, I can't comment on how many might be allowed under, an N1A scenario, or if they went N1F, did a multi-dwelling development. It's just difficult to say. As far as the comment about, the rooftop, non-residential follows rooftops, that's true, but there's no designated neighborhood centers in this area, kind of within a mile or so. So according to the current version of the comprehensive plan, we're not anticipating any sort of, mixed use or, non-residential developments within a short walk.
And I'll add that when we talk about the policy map and adding more rooftops, think about transition. So we would want to see next to those activity centers, if we're seeing changes from N1 to N2, we would expect those on the edges of the activity center so that they have more direct access to that activity center and building out a better transition from the most intense uses in an area to perhaps multifamily uses, later to single family uses as you get further and further from your more intense activity centers. As far as what could be allowed under N1, you can of course reach out to the petitioner. They could maybe comment on what they've considered, but keep in mind, under N1, every lot has to abut a public street. And a lot of folks are looking at that N2 scenario because when you can build in those private alleys, you have a lot more space to play with to add more units. So like Max said, it'd be impossible for us to estimate on our end how many units they could get out of an N1 scenario, but you are significantly changing your site design with an N1 because you have to have every lot abutting a public street rather than a private alley.
One more thing, just that's.
Not
just-
changing my mind.
Just to add real quick, I know that you had mentioned Little Rock Road. I see this as being pretty close to one of our largest places of employment in the entire region, and that is Charlotte Douglas International Airport. We need housing near there. Like, I really feel like I'm on board for this one because we need housing there. I mean, 25,000 people work there every single day, and they need places to live. And there's not, I mean, zooming out over here from a city planning standpoint, it's kind of the wild, wild west, and we need places for people to live, so.
Any other questions, comments? Think, between Max, Holly, and then, what our commissioners have brought up, this one slots very neatly into a gray area. Right? I mean, it's tough because you kind of have these push-pull factors. On one hand, I completely understand the lack of amenities, the desire to avoid setting a precedent, frankly. I get that. On the other hand, it's really difficult for us to, barring something egregious, say no to additional housing options, right? Especially, well, I mean, really agnostic of location, but I will say, especially in this neighborhood. I don't really have anything to say to kind of push somebody one way or the other. I see completely both sides. Happy to entertain a motion from the more vocal people this evening. Or Commissioner Neely.
Okay.
We'll see where that goes.
Okay. Neely, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2025-016 and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us. That was,
wasn't
Second.
No,
oh,
no, we would have to provide a revised
Oh,
consistency.
that's right.
well, wait, but we didn't vote.
No.
Yes, so you would need to provide
It's not
your own
consistent.
consistency.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, my bad, my
Yeah.
bad, my
And the
bad. I was
consistency
thinking about us.
statement provided by,
So you could
The commission.
summarize your previous comments
yeah,
or
for sure.
I would just maybe restate them in one broad bullet.
Yeah, so do you want me to go or you want to go?
No, I would, well, saying the need for housing in the area.
Yeah.
That's what I would
Yeah,
say.
so we see the need for housing in the area, kind of trumps the lack of connectivity. This is a district, that while it does not lack, or while it does not have some of the necessary amenities and infrastructure, it is near a very large, center of employment, that could use housing to support it. And also will be near the, destination district for the airport, which will see, future amenities.
So we didn't vote though.
So that's the motion.
Second, McDonald.
So motion by Neely, second by McDonald. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right. Unanimous.
Max, that was enough for you?
Yeah, if you need us to repeat anything, please let us know. If not, we'll move on to
You can
the.
Tell Tijuana Brown at the
Wow.
council hearing, I will.
All right, we're gonna move past that.
Oh, it is, great, okay.
2025-017 by the Drox Group LLC. To Joe, please.
So if I need to tell Malcolm Graham, there we go.
This site is approximately 3 acres located on the west side of Nations Ford Road, north of Nations Drive and south Echodale Drive. To a CMS campus with high school and elementary school. Current zoning is OFC, proposed zoning is N2A CD. The 2040 policy map recommends the neighborhood 1 place type. The proposal is for a community of 37 multifamily attached dwellings, including 1 quadruplex and 11 triplex buildings. Establish a network of private alleys to access units, implement 8-foot sidewalk and 8-foot planting strip along Nations Ford Road. Gets to the open space with a minimum dimension of 50 feet in radius. Provide 7 guest parking spaces, prohibits vinyl as a building material except for on window soffits and trim features, and limits detached lighting to 21 feet in height. It requires a full cutoff and downward directed. Since the public hearing, the petitioner has extended an alley towards the southern property line for future cross access. Added an internal sidewalk connection from the open space to the green area. Confirmed compliance with Article 21 of the PPO. And dimension the future back of curb location. And just today, we did receive another revised site plan that resolved the remaining outstanding issues. So there are no outstanding issues. Staff does recommend approval. It's inconsistent with the policy recommendation for campus place types. However, what provides multifamily attached dwellings, which would diversify the housing options along the segment of Nations Ford Road. Site is adjacent to a CMS campus, as I mentioned, as well as near employment campus, commercial node, and proposed Mecklenburg County Community Resource Center. The bus stop and gas route 24 is located along the site's Nation Ford Road frontage. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Questions, comments? Hopefully everybody did get that updated site plan. And just to confirm, there is no request for a stub to the north, correct? There was a request made and then rescinded, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that.
There's a small remnant parcel to the north owned by CMS. But we did decide to rescind that comment. We did get the alley connection to the south, which is a higher priority.
I could completely agree. All right. This one, yeah, no additional feedback. You have anything, Clayton? All right, motion, please.
Motion to approve, Sealy. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2025-017, as well as the adoption of the associated consistency statement as they appear before us.
Second, Stewart.
Motion Sealy, second Stewart, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Last but not least, 2025-018 by Oyster Development, Inc. And back to you, Joe.
Thank you. This site also right around 3 acres located on the northeast corner of West Point Drive and Sam Wilson Road, south of Margaret Drive. Near the interchange of I-85 and I-485. Current zoning is N2B. Proposed zoning is ML1, conventional. 2040 policy map recommends the manufacturing and display site. Proposal is consistent with the policy map recommendation. Staff recommends approval, and I'll be happy to take questions.
That was a great last petition. Any questions?
This is an easy one.
That is motion, please.
Shaw, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2025-018 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Stewart, second.
Motion Shaw, second Stewart, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Thank you all very much.
Loud enough for both of us.